God. Did you get your Namakubi to the island in time?
Yeah, like a month ago. Yeah.
Mine finally got there. Fucking FedEx. Fuck FedEx. They gave me so much goddamn anxiety. It's like I get there on the Wednesday. They're like, "Oh, we can get it there tomorrow for 100 and whatever bucks, or Friday." I'm like, "Oh, Friday works." They're like, "Yeah, Friday for $40." I'm like, "Awesome." I get a notification that night. Your package will be delivered on time Monday.
Oh, fuck.
And I'm like, on time? That's not on time. And then I get a message, your package will be there on Friday. And I'm like, okay. And then I wake up in the morning, no, your package will be on time Monday.
Wow.
What? Then I get a message on Saturday morning that my package will be delivered on Saturday between 9 a.m. and 2. And I'm like, and then they're like, oh, it's been delivered early. I'm like, no, it's still late. I paid for Friday. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Anyways, so yeah, now me and Kevin are just trying to figure out the best and quickest way to get our. Well, at least Kevin's done his dragon. He's texting me right now, like, I don't know how I'm gonna send this. I guess I should have done something so big.
What's
It's
that?
like, yeah.
You haven't even started your dragon yet.
I have the drawing done.
5 days for the deadline. That's okay. That's okay.
All right. I'll paint it tomorrow.
That's right. Put in a lot of effort.
Yeah. What's the difference? What's the difference between 8 hours over like 3 weeks or 8 hours in a day? Right?
Nice. How big is it? Like this?
No, it is narrow and tall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to fucking paint that Namakubi twice.
Yeah, that sucks.
So, but that's because I tried farting around and doing different things that I've never tried before. I'm not doing that with a dragon. I know what I'm doing, or it's pretty straightforward and simple. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compete with anybody or even compete with myself on this one. I just want a really clean. Actually, I'm challenging myself. It's because it's fine line stuff. So
Sweet. I love it. I'm not challenging myself on this one, but I am.
yeah.
Yeah, fuck.
Dude, that girl Anya that I have at my shop now, she's like fucking just like sketches and then fully renders a fucking fully painted flash sheet by the end of the day.
Yeah, you're
Every
saying
time that she's there. It's crazy.
That's amazing.
Like, and Maddie too, that I have with me now, same. He's banging out so much like rad flash, and people are actually coming and getting it, so he's stoked and stuff. So,
Rad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, we're gonna be doing a fundraiser on March 9th. Actually, I never do them. We're doing a fundraiser for Northern Alberta Animal Protection Society,
Cool.
NASAP. So that'll be fun. So we're doing a bunch of flash for that. So
sweet.
Yeah, man.
Be a good time.
Yeah, totally. So you like that? How long that John Clue one was?
2 hours 40 minutes.
Oh my god, dude! Me getting to do all those pictures because the picture only slides for like 2 seconds. So I'm like, I had to go through and change the time on every single photo for it to stay up longer and try and stretch it out over all that time. And then I just got to the point where I was like, okay, these can't be longer than like 45 seconds each. So I just started like doubling them and stuff. So, but yeah, that was a good one. That was fun.
Oh, shitty.
Yeah, so
I think you could do that in Canva.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know what the
Yeah,
audio quality would be and how that would work, but you should be able to take the fully edited. There might be a size time restriction. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
and then you can just click. Anyway, don't worry about it.
yeah. It's done
It's too late. Never doing that
now.
again.
No, no, no. So I'll fire up that other one that you were originally using, and then we'll just try a test run like sometime this week with it. And then I told Wes just to be available because we'll just do like a call in, figure out how we do the call in or whatever.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then we can get that
Marcus,
Marcus. Yeah, so I'll text him tomorrow and tell him I haven't forgot about him. So,
sweet.
but yeah, this was gonna be fun. Next up, Terry Ribera. He's
Yeah, it's
just
gonna be
hanging out in his art studio right now.
nice.
So yeah, you got anything going on other than the Dragon Show? That's pretty much it, or
Oh, I've got two paintings on the go, and uh, I drew 4 sleeves and a back piece this week, and I'm starting another. Sketched out another one, just for fun.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. Shop's
Yeah,
super busy, and like people are really inspired, and everybody wants to be creative, so it's,
yeah, yeah.
it's contagious, right?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, we had a
Yeah,
paint night last week. Actually, Kevin came up from Calgary for the day/night, and we did a paint night at the shop. It was super fun. We had James Greenaway come by, and
cool,
Shan came to visit and stuff. So yeah, it's fun. So yeah, gonna
nice.
start trying to do those a little more regularly, like once a month kind of thing. Just
Yeah,
open doors, whoever wants to come, kind of thing. So push each
sweet.
other. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
that James Greenaway is actually get a guest spot for two
Oh,
weeks
cool.
here. Midway through the month, so like February 15th, I think he comes for like 2 weeks or whatever. So it'll be fun to
There
hang
you
out
go.
with him. I was pulling out like all my old. Kept talking about New School because that's what he does. So I kept pulling out all my old tattoo photos of like graffiti and drawings and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you know how to do this stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, I used to." So we'll figure it out. So we'll try and
Uh,
do some like fun art projects while he's hanging out too. So yeah, it's good, man.
oh,
Feeling good, inspired.
nice.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I guess I should send this invite to Terry, and I'll let him know to check his
Email.
email. Yeah. Sent. All right, man. Like usual, episodes brought to you by Holdfast Social Club and Good Guy Supply. And Dave, you were mentioning something about grips or something. Have they come out with those things fucking yet or what?
I don't know, but yeah, they've for the good pen, they've got autoclavable grips. They're fucking amazing. Like they weigh so much. Like the weight's just right in your hand.
Oh, have you
But
tried them?
no, I just played with them at the warehouse.
Oh, okay.
They had
Okay.
samples there.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think
So yeah, so they're not out yet.
no, but they should be soon. They should be.
Okay.
But I think for a lot of people that'll be really. I don't. How would you describe it? I think it'd just be a real nice change to if you don't like a light pen in your hand and you want something that has a little bit of weight. The weight's
Yeah.
perfect. It's right in your actual hand instead of hanging off. And
Cool. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd love to try that out. Always good for some new shit.
yes.
So, all right, man. We'll be right back with Terry.
Welcome to Kinda a Big Deal, a weekly podcast deep diving into the lives of emerging and established tattoo artists. Listen in as we dig into origin stories, industry hot topics, and what it takes to survive in the world of tattooing. This is Tattoo Shop Talk. Join your hosts Sean Headley and Dave Allen every week as we host a new guest.
It's no secret Dave and I have a good guy connection, but we have a great relationship with many respected suppliers. Working with Lucas Ford at Classic Tattoo, I saw firsthand the blood, sweat, and stress he went through building Good Guy. Creating products for your peers is no easy task. With many to critique any small missteps, including myself, tattooer owned and family operated since day one. With Lucas, Rob, and Natalie at the helm, you know exactly what you are getting. High quality products, fair prices, and excellent customer service. Shop, support, Good Guy.
The Holdfast Social Club keeps expanding and adding features to make the life of tattooers easier. We just launched a classified section for pros only. Sell your tattoo gear, prints, whatever, in one spot. This is on top of a platform with peer-to-peer vouching, direct connect, a wait list, and geo-searching. Now you can find guest spots or forever homes at studios everywhere. No guessing, no awkward conversations. See what shops or artists have to offer. Mark them as favorites or add yourself to their wait list to let them know you are interested. Holdfast Social Club keeps adding features to make connecting easy. Pros only, a place where the best of us can elevate each other.
Do you have yourself muted?
Yeah, I think I had the volume down.
How about now?
I often do that.
Technical difficulties, which I like to call Dave.
Oh.
He was just having fucking problems also. He's like, us. It's always on my end. And then he's like, oh, never mind. I figured it out.
We're fucking artists. We're not technical wizards.
No.
Yeah. Artists. Okay, calm down.
Well, Terry is.
Still working on it. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's going really good. The only thing I could say is you guys sound kind of like quiet on my end. I don't know if there's any way for me to adjust that.
Is there the only way I think you could do it is just turn up your volume on your end. That's it.
All right. It's cool. I can hear you. I can hear you good enough. It's fine.
We'll be very loud. I always have to turn our volume.
Yeah.
I always have to turn volumes down in editing. So, yeah. Also, we need to hear you. Nobody needs to hear us anymore. People are fucking. I've heard enough of us.
I'm listening to you guys tremendously. I'm kind of like obsessed with your podcast. So the fact that you're like, oh,
man.
When can we record you? I was like, oh. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you get to know what it feels like. Get that little fear sweat going.
I've done a few little things like this in the past, and I think I tend to do okay. But you guys can edit it out.
No editing.
Right, okay.
Just
I don't.
We're fucking lazy, man.
We've had so many people that ask that. They're like, "Oh, you guys edit much?" And I'm like, "No, not at all." I try and make the audio the best that I can of my capabilities because our audio was really bad in the beginning. Still is bad some days. But other than that, no.
All right.
It all stays in. We're trying to get canceled every episode, so help us out.
What I'm going to probably do just before we get too far going here, I'm just going to set my phone to like sleep or something just so like no one calls. Because I just realized I was like, oh yeah, that's on. I probably shouldn't have that on because I want to say it links to this computer, and then that'll be kind of insane. So,
a bunch of text messages start coming up on the screen.
All right. Okay. All right.
Awesome. Cool.
No,
thanks for joining us today.
I'm super excited to do this with you guys. So,
where are you? Where are you calling us
I'm
from?
San Diego. San Diego, California. I live in Normal Heights, and I have a shop in North Park, which is about a mile and a half away. So, yeah.
Cool.
Remington.
What's it called?
Yeah,
cool.
Not named after the gun.
Remington. Oh, no? American, we just figured that's probably a good one.
Just the shooting every day.
You're more of a fan of the ammunition, not the gun.
No, it's named after the Remington brand typewriter. And if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the same company.
Oh, cool.
But there's a story that goes with that. So,
all right.
So wait, do you collect typewriters?
I actually have a lot of typewriters. Yeah, it's kind of funny because that was the original branding for the shop. And, before I knew it, like every other client of mine was like, hey, about the swap meet, I found a Remington typewriter. And so, yeah, I've got a bunch. I've got the oldest one I have is from 1890. Has a wooden space bar, which is pretty crazy. I've got a couple of, I don't know, I probably got about 10 or so. I used to have more. I ended up getting rid of a bunch. It's like, why do I have all these things? But yeah, so when I originally opened the shop, which was about 13 years ago, I was married at the time. And, my ex-wife was a really great artist, designer. So she worked in branding, marketing. She did a bunch of, children's books, this kind of thing. And, so she was more the marketing person. I was like, all right, so it was the name that she came up with. After, 2 or 3 months, I just kind of got tired of like debating like what we should call it. And then she, had that one, and I was like, it sounds strong. It's a good sounding name, but her branding reason for it, it's a machine that you mark with ink. So it just kind of made sense, and the typewriter just looked cool.
Yeah.
We really could have called it anything. It was just, it was just that time. It was like I'd been tattooing for a fair amount of time at that point, and it just made sense for me to open up. So.
Oh, so cool.
Cool.
How long have you
So
been tattooing?
after this winter, it'll be about 24 years. Yeah. I learned here in San Diego, actually. I didn't grow up here. I actually moved here from the Bay Area when I was 21. At that time, I was just doing a bunch of album cover illustrations and kind of a little bit of graphic design to use Photoshop and some things. I worked with a couple small record companies, and that's really all I did for about a year and a half, 2 years, and then, towards the end of that, it was getting to a point where I was like, this is a really hard way to make a living. I'm not super excited about what I was doing. So I'm a big fan of hip hop music. I own turntables. There's a reason I have these big silly headphones on, and, so anyways, that was kind of what I was doing at the time, like drawing album covers for DJs and, different, MCs and stuff. And, a lot of break dancers on album covers, and like, that's fun when you're in high school, but, I was kind of getting to the stage where like, I enjoy that music, but it's not really how I want to, that's not my identity, So
Yeah, totally.
shortly after, being here in San Diego, there's a massive amount of tattoo shops here. Honestly, it's it's kind of ridiculous, and a few years before then, when I was 19, still, kind of just barely living at home, was just getting ready to move out. I was actually offered an apprenticeship up in the Bay Area where I grew up, just 30 minutes from San Francisco. And, I came home, told my dad about it, and he was like, I thought you wanted to be a painter. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of like painting. And he's like, no, it's not. And he's like, tattoos are for assholes. And I was like, cool. So, all right, I guess maybe I'm crazy, So I decided not to pursue it. Came here to San Diego, shortly afterwards. I'm living my art dream, I'm like, whatever, doing my thing, barely, I had roommates. I didn't need much, so I was like, as long as I could pay rent for my room and eat, it was basically working. And then, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I've had enough of this, and my parents aren't here. I don't have any reason to not do it. So I started looking up tattoo shops. And, maybe in about a week or two of looking into it, I got an apprenticeship pretty quickly, which is weird, I always hear these stories about like the guy hung out at the shop a bunch, and he got tattooed a bunch by the owner or one of the guys at the shop, and eventually they built this rapport. And I wish that was my story, but that is not my story. Honestly, I was a total I like to draw. I like painting. I just kind of didn't have a real direction. And, I started tattooing. I literally didn't have a single tattoo on me. I was a complete.
I was just about to ask,
No,
were you tattooed yourself?
I don't know if I would have apprenticed me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was that guy, and yeah, so,
Yeah.
I learned to tattoo at the Tahiti Felix's master tattoo. So they've been open since 1949. So I had a pretty traditional apprenticeship. I got to see a lot of things that I think people in my generation were, maybe lucky to see. And then easily, 10 years, from today, definitely no one is seeing these things anymore, the owners of the shop, they were two brothers. They're Tahitian. Actually, it's owned by actually the guy that owns it now is their brother-in-law. He was Tahitian as well. And I know I'm very white looking, but I'm actually part Tahitian, which is part of why I got the apprenticeship, So at that time, the way I would get clients for my work is I would just send out these mailers. I'd find a record company I like, or maybe a clothing company, and I would just, go to Kinko's, make a little portfolio, send it out. I had a little website that I built. I taught myself HTML coding just from going online, and because there was no social media, there was no other way to get your stuff on the internet at the time. Yeah. And I just sort of, when I wanted to find an apprenticeship, I sort of just treated it the same way. It's like, I'm going to mail out these packages to these people. These kind of look like good shops that I'm looking at online. And then I'll email them all and just say, what my deal is. And Gil, that owns Masters Now, he started talking with me. And, and of course, one of his first questions are, do you have any tattoos? And I said, I don't right now. It's something I'd like to do. Honestly, I was just broke. It wasn't something I could really afford. I had friends that got tattooed, from people in their houses that looked pretty fucked, so that wasn't really working for me. And then, I don't know. I was probably like a lot of artists, I'm going to draw my own tattoo. I kind of think I had that sort of idea. Which is part of why I was offered the initial apprenticeship that I didn't end up taking. I was just someone that was curious. I was trying to ask the artists about tattoos, a lot of technical questions, because that was my thought at the time. It's like, I'm going to make my own design, right? Because, no one wants to tattoo that. But I for sure do. He's hearing me ask all these crazy questions, and I'm coming in with my friends on occasion that were getting tattooed at a shop. And he's like, hey, do you have a portfolio? And, at that time, I never left the house without a backpack that had, my portfolio. I was just I was kind of like a little businessman at the time. I was like, I'm going to run into someone that owns a cafe, and they're going to hire me to do mural. They're going to hire me to make their menu. I just was obsessed, since the age of 5. If anyone asked me, hey, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I was like, I'm going to be an artist, period. There was never, honestly, it was such a strange thing to me to have friends, you're reaching the end of high school, and they're like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm like, the fuck's wrong? What do you mean you don't know what you're going to do? But I'm lucky that way, I had a thing that, just was my obsession. And so, I came here to San Diego, started at Tahiti Felix's, and there was a guy by the name of Denny Bernard, French tattooer, does large-scale Japanese stuff, really, really a great tattooer. And, he had just moved back from France, and oddly enough, they also apprenticed him about maybe 8 years before I got there. Because he could speak French and he could draw. So if you know about Tahiti, the language is French. At home, you would speak Tahitian, and you speak English to tourists. That's kind of how it works there. And so, they got this guy who could speak French, and he happens to be just traveling through the U.S. at the time. And, he comes into their shop. He's wanting to get tattooed. And they're like, oh, you speak French, so they kind of converse with him that way. And then he sits in the lobby and he sketches out kind of what he's wanting to do. And of course, right then they saw this guy. He's like, oh, he can draw. And they're like, well, so what are you doing? What are you doing right now? He's like, nothing. I'm just kind of hanging out. I'm just traveling. I don't really have a plan. And they are like, well, do you want to hang out here? Maybe help us out? And then he said about 2 weeks later, which is insane to me, they put a tattoo machine in his hand and he started tattooing, and then, yeah.
Wild.
It was a really crazy shop, I don't know if you know who Al Miller is. He would be Eugene Miller's brother. So if you ever read any of the biography of Sailor Jerry, it talks about Eugene and Al Miller. These were the older tattooers that he looked up to when he was in Hawaii. And so Al Miller ended up coming down here and then ended up working over at Masters because he had a connection with their father. And that guy tattooed till he was 81, that's gnarly, right? So I got there I don't know, a few months after he had left. So I didn't actually get that experience with him. But he did pop by the shop a couple times and I was there. And it was interesting to see him. And but the owners of the shop, they were pretty old school. They wore the big, dental lab coats, like that kind of thing. They're pretty traditional in that aspect. One of the owners, he still autoclaved all of his tubes and needles in a glass test tube. There would be a cotton ball at the end with a cork, and then that would go in the autoclave because, he's not spending money on, blister pouches and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it was crazy. But so Denny that worked there, the first time he met me, I was getting interviewed in person by I got this giant art bag that I brought in with all these paintings and stuff, and the interview goes well. They're like, all right, man, we like you, we'll give you a shot. And he just happens to come into the shop. It's his day off. And he sees me there. He kind of knows that I'm coming. He's heard about it, and he sees me starting to put my artwork away, and he stops by and he looks at it. He's like, oh, this is really good. And I was like, oh, thank you. And he's like, you're never going to do this here. And then he left. and immediately I was like, this guy, that's the guy I need to know, And him and I, he was really the one who taught me. I think he was kind of separated with his wife at the time. I think he just wanted a drinking buddy. So it was like, that was my apprenticeship. It was 6 months of, him dragging me to the bar every night. He'd buy all my drinks and then, I'd end up, staying at his place and we'd talk about art and he'd definitely knock me down many pegs, that was our relationship was, he draws well, but he's definitely someone who, everyone works in it, right? But let's just say it came a little easier for me. Yeah, and I think he sort of knew that, and he was like, yeah, but this kid's going to be like cocky or some bullshit. So he needs to understand what tattooing is, not this stuff that he's doing. And so it really he kind of reframed how I thought. And yeah, it was really changed my mind. He started introducing me to, tattoos that Philip Liu had done and Klaus Foreman and, these kind of tattooers that were really like inspiring at the time. But especially the big Japanese stuff. It was really like, Mike Rubendahl, Chris O'Donnell, like all this kind of stuff was really the stuff I first saw. And then, of course, I later started seeing work from Aaron Kane and Marcus Pacheco, of course, and luckily at that shop, they had 20 years of old tattoo magazines and all the old tattoo times. And so if I wasn't like cleaning or making needles or helping them at the shop when there was downtime, I just sat there and read these magazines. And, so I kind of got really familiar with a lot of older names, and especially because Denny was very, very interested in the history of tattooing, and yeah, it was just helpful. Plus, working with Maurice and Hero Lynch, the guys that own the shop, they were there. They, at a time when tattooing was much more simple, it was cool.
Yeah.
I think that's
how long?
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I was just gonna ask, how long were you at that
So in
shop
total,
for?
I was there about 3 years. Yeah.
Awesome. And was it 2 weeks until you had a machine in
If
your
the
hand, or
owners
did they
had it
make you
their
wait
way, it
longer?
would have been. I was just too scared. You know, I was super critical. I
Yeah.
was like, man, like I'm watching these guys. I'm like, how fast and efficient they were. You know, and it was really hard, and especially like I didn't have tattoos yet, so you know, I kind of felt like out of place. You know, I was like, oh man, I'm kind of like this weirdo in here, and so what they did is they gave me a tattoo machine to take home, and they're like, look, you need to know what this feels like. So you're just gonna go home and put stencils on yourself, and you're just gonna like run it with water, just so you like understand. And so yeah, I would just come to the shop with just like red, fucked up like
It's
lines
smart.
and shit all over me, like you know. And yeah,
Smart.
that was just kind of how it was. And you know, Denny, he was such a you know, he was like, look, before you start getting tattooed, he's like, be careful what you put on your forearms. He's like, this matters. You know, this is the difference. He's like, when people come up to you and your arms are nice, they can trust you. If your arms are covered in shit, it looks like you just kind of rush into things. I don't know if I can trust you. You know, at least that was his mentality at the time. You know, and I don't agree because some of the best tattooers just have bodies worth of crazy stuff. You know, but yeah, so yeah, maybe about 6 months in, when I was barely starting to do my first few like free tattoos, there was a convention here in San Diego, and I made friends with a guy named Hiro. He owns Cotton Picket in Akita, Japan. And so he ended up doing my first tattoo. He actually, we went out drinking all night.
Wow.
And then the next day, he's like, all right, I'm going to go to your shop. And yeah, he tattooed me. And, you know, so Danny, you know, he's the guy teaching me. He wants to pay for it, like, because actually it happened to be my birthday. It's kind of interesting. And then the guy, you know, Hero's like, no, it's cool. It's on me. Happy birthday. So yeah, it was really like pretty amazing to have that experience.
Oh, wow.
And you know, and then later on, of course, I started getting, you know, other tattoos. You know, in my mind, I'm saving this for Steve Moore. Whether or not that ever actually happens, yeah, I gotta figure that out.
Just call him Book. Just email him.
Yeah, just
you know what? I did about like, oh geez, maybe like 17 years ago, and you know, I just need to get it together, man. That's really what it is. Yeah.
He drew.
You know, I've been so
he Steve Moore actually.
I've been to Canada a couple times. The first time I went there was just you know, see Quebec, Montreal, all that kind of stuff, and then the second and third time I went there, I guest spotted at Rich Hansford's Kapala Tattoo. Yeah, it was really cool experience. And all those guys every other person there had a bodysuit from Steve or James or a combination of, you know, or you know, huge work from you know, some work from Lars Uwe, and yeah, it was really like, wow, you guys, yeah, it's incredible. Like seeing Dan Fletcher, Sean Kushney, yeah, it was really such a wonderful shop. You know, like especially like when I was learning to tattoo, I was attracted to illustrative tattooing right from the get-go. And I really love this look of, you know, the way Philip Liu would do these big flowy Japanese backgrounds, especially the water, you know, the way he'd make clouds, this atmosphere. And also just like the way he would think to compose things. Like if someone comes in and they want a dragon, it appeared to me as if he'd be like, oh, you want a dragon on your chest? You know, he doesn't do a whole fucking dragon on your chest. It's like you already get the head and you can see that it's starting to go. And then the next time you see like this person, oh, now your arm is done. You know? Oh, by the way, I made it so interesting on your shoulder. You can see it's starting to go. You know, so this thinking, I was like, then that was something that Denny was very adamant about. He was like, you know, these little tattoos, you need to act like you're doing everything. Pretend like you're doing all of it. Don't just kind of create the design without that in mind. And so, yeah, immediately that was just my approach. Whether or not I deserved to be in that place was something else, but that was how I started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good
Yeah,
mentoring,
he
right?
was,
So
yeah,
comes down.
really great sense of composition. Really encouraged the idea of like making tattoos age, that kind of stuff. And there was two other really amazing artists that worked there. Nate Benuelos, chances you may have heard of him. He worked at New School and Analog and all that kind of stuff years ago. And a guy named Christopher Walken, no relation to the actor. He owns a place called Iron Cypress in Louisiana. Does really beautiful tattooing. If you guys don't know him, I should check him out. His stuff is great.
I'll look him up. Yeah.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
so that was another thing. Being there with these guys, I'm like, I have like these three super amazing tattooers, and I'm like, I can draw all this stuff, but like I put it in a line and it's fucked. You can't make anything heal. All the stuff. But yeah, eventually, it started kind of making sense. Yeah.
So where did you go on, Dave?
I want to touch on something Sean mentioned, the importance of mentorship, and it kind of relates back to something you said when you got into tattooing. You had all this artistic ability, and I think we've all seen it where somebody comes into the industry with, like, they're just red hot. They can draw, they can render like just about any subject matter, and their attitude gets in the way. What kept that from happening for you? Like, you seem like a really humble and down to earth guy.
Denny, his daily like destroying me. So Denny and I, our relationship was interesting. So we actually worked together for about 10 years. The next shop that he went to after Masters was a place called Seven Seas, a traditional American style shop. And yeah, they hired me like pretty much within 3 or 4 days of hiring him. And it was really weird, like they were in this, they were a couple miles or maybe a mile from the shop that I learned at. But at that time, Nate left, Chris left, Denny left, and I was kind of on my own, and yeah, it was really hard for me to leave there, to be honest. Like I felt like I was like betraying these guys that like gave me an opportunity. I still feel like that, to be honest. There's still a little bit of that. I'm still friends with Gil over there. I pop in on occasion and stuff. But yeah, there's always, I kind of feel like a little shitty about that, to be honest. But there was.
You gave him 3 years. That's pretty good, right? I'm seeing people bouncing after 6 months.
Yeah, like you don't even know how to hold the machine right. You haven't even figured out how to stretch the skin correctly. Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
So yeah, I followed Denny over to Seven Seas and worked there about another, maybe about a year. Him and I lasted there, but it was a very chaotic place at the time. The guy that owned it, it was just like, you're trying to work and just people are just like drinking 40s all day, and then there's just like it was mayhem all the time. Like
a little too traditional of a shop.
Denny and I would come to work in the morning and like. The owner would be like passed out on the floor, the unmopped, ink stains, tattoo floor with whatever woman he was with the night before. And we're like, dude, you got to get up. Like, it's time. Like, we got appointments coming in 40 minutes, like, come on, and, that's just how the guy rolled. He was just super like, there are no rules. Tell me I can't,
Yeah.
And then, so that, all right, to give you an example, this shop, it was his apartment originally. So it was a live-work loft. He got upset with where he was working right before then. And he just, like, quit in the middle of his workday, walks to his apartment, pushes his furniture to the back of the apartment, and then pretty much, like, immediately, like, the next day had a sign on the window and just put the tattoo stuff in front. He's like, that's it, I have a shop. Like, no proper like registration with the city, like nothing, So that place kind of was there like that for maybe about a year, and then he decided to expand the shop, so he moved out of the back, and then hired a few more of us, and yeah, it was pretty insane, to be honest. It was really, I mean, I have a lot of love for that place, but it's a different style, man. Like, I can't.
What's allowed to
There's so
happen
much
there?
drinking, like lots of other things, like, and I would, I'm,
That,
I get caught up. I would get involved with a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff, not during the workday.
Well,
I was
it's
quite
like,
the opposite. I was like, no, during
Yeah.
work, I'm not doing that, and why are you guys doing that, but after work, it was really easy for me to get swept away into that. And then,
it was the time, right? Like, well, actually, that would have been early 2000s, right?
Yeah, it was the time.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to give a similar story but I'm like, oh, this was actually the early 90s, which I think was a little more common than early 2000s. But me and Dave Green, Dave Green now owns Sacred Heart in Vancouver, we actually lived in the back of New Tribe, which is a huge shop in Toronto, and we lived in the back of that. But Dave was sober, and I was actually the furthest from sober. And that would be it. Like, we had a big steel door that would lock, and like the counter girl in the morning would be fucking banging on it, like, you guys have work. Dave was a piercer, I was a tattooer, and like, come out, wiping our eyes, tell the client, we'll be back at 5, washing up in the hobo bathroom, like, and we lived like that for probably almost a year before we got an apartment together. So
it had a lot of that kind of stuff.
Like, I brought this. Yeah, bringing a girl to the shop afterwards from the bar because she slashed her elbow open, and waking Dave up and making him like stitch her. Hey, man, piercers want to pretend they're doctors. Here you go, stitch her up.
Yeah, it was intense. Environment.
Times.
The dude this Milford Barnes, he's a free spirit. I'll tell you that. And so in the middle of the day, there's a bunch of us tattooing. We're like in the middle of tattoos, and this guy decides to take a shower. And there's a fully functioning bathroom with a shower in the shop, so he does that. And then while we're tattooing, he exits the bathroom completely naked. Could care less that there's anyone getting tattooed. He goes to the refrigerator, pulls out a jar of pickle juices. There's no more pickles there. Chugs a bunch of pickle juice. Like naked in the middle, just like, I was like, man, I'm trying to do something serious here, and it's a different version. I kind of felt like, man, if I stay here, this ain't working. Yeah. So I left. I left, worked at another shop for, maybe another year. Chris Wynn, he had a shop in La Jolla. And that was a tough place to work. There was very little business. At that point, I was like a 4-year tattooer. I just had my little clientele. It was a struggle. So I had to guest spot a lot, like up in the Bay Area. And, just like a street shop in the East Bay, that was kind of like the way I was working. I was like, I'll go there, I'll make my money. And then I'll come back to San Diego and like kind of live this weird vacation, but tattoo more like my serious stuff here. And, that worked okay for about a year. And then, after that, I was like, man, maybe San Diego's not the place. It's just, I'm not reaching what I want out of this career. So at that point, I kind of had it set to move back home. I was like, I'm going to go back to the Bay Area. It seems like there's a lot more opportunity there. And, obviously, because, San Francisco and San Jose Oakland have, like, so many incredible tattooers. And so Denny, he ended up taking a job over at Avalon. And Fit Buchanan, he would send me, like, emails all the time. Like, almost like he was like, hey, kid, I like your stuff. I really like your stuff. Did I tell you I like your stuff? Yeah.
Come in.
Exactly.
Come in.
And I don't know, like I wasn't getting it, And then eventually, he asked me, he's like, do you want to sit in for a couple weeks? Because I was, I was kind of working in the Bay and then working here. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. Went there, worked for a couple weeks, and then after 2 weeks, he was like, "Do you want a job?" And I actually told him I need to think about it, which is like I really didn't need to think about it, but it was just like in my mind, I was like, "No, I'm moving back to the Bay Area. Like I'm over San Diego." But I was like, "Man, this is an opportunity." And so yeah, I worked there, and then I worked there for about I don't know between 5 and 6 years, and yeah, that was cool. Got to work with Denny.
Nice.
Again, and I was forever his apprentice. Didn't matter how well I did. Didn't matter if I had magazine articles. Didn't matter. None of that. None of it mattered. Yeah, it was always his apprentice. And he sure would let me know it. So it was, yeah,
Kept you humble.
It'll do that for sure. And then at the tail end of that experience. The last 2 years that I was there, I split my time between San Diego and New York. I tattooed at Daredevil for roughly 2 years. So it was literally like I'd be in San Diego for 3 weeks, and then I'd go there for 2 weeks. And I just did that for 2 years. It was really bizarre. But, I was engaged, and, my ex-wife had took this job there for a little while, and that's what I did to make it work, because at this point, I grew up pretty poor. I didn't have I'm not trying to make it sound like I was desperate for food or anything, but it was, money wasn't a thing, it was the Bay Area. People are rich there, man. And that was not my house, really not, my dad was always like, the ship is sinking, every day, And yeah, so here I am. I'm like, I'm finally making steady income. I'm, at that point I was booked, I don't know, between 6 and 8 months for years at this point. And I was like, there's no way I'm leaving this. I don't want to go there for 2 years, start over, then you're done with that job, and then move back. And then I have to start over again. So that's how I made it work. But it was fun. It was cool. I got to work with Andre Malcolm, who's amazing. Yeah, amazing. That guy. It's ridiculous. I would just come to work and be like, "Oh, I'm starting a sleeve today," and then 3 hours in, all outlined. It's all the background is shaded in, and you're like, "What?" and I consider myself to be a fast tattooer, and to see that, I was like, "Dude, no."
I was just gonna say, I watched that time lapse of you doing that Hanya, where you did all that. The purple with the high and low lights and stuff is what can I get done in 3.5 hours? And I was like, fuck you.
So, pretty fast, but Andre's it's something else. Clean. And I mean, I'll say this, his tattoos are it's like the Philip Blue approach. It's tattoo friendly, when you're doing illustrative stuff, it's you can't be that kind of fast, but I don't know, and plus, I think that's sort of what people expect from me. Terry does this, so I'll deliver that, But I would enjoy kind of having more of that approach, But
so were you getting to do a lot of your stuff out of Daredevil? That's a
honestly, I think that's why it worked so well for me. Is because I did something that none of them did, Jason June worked there. What's her name? Amanda Wakeb. I don't know if you know her name. She's kind of like the original watercolor person.
No.
So yes, she was there too, but she also would do a totally traditional tattoo. So she kind of, it was interesting. Brad Fink would come down on occasion because he actually part owns that shop.
Sweet.
So I don't know. It was just kind of weird to see this all these people. But yeah, I was kind of, again, the odd guy. Honestly, that's been most of my career. I've been the guy that doesn't do the traditional stuff with a bunch of traditional tattooers. Most of my friends are traditional tattooers. Most of what I follow on social media is traditional tattooing. Because it's just good tattoos. That's honestly really that's what I look at. When I'm looking at tattoos on, people's portfolios, it's that's really what I think of. It's will this age well? Is this large and readable? Can I make sense of it from across the street? And that's kind of what I look for. I don't care how beautifully rendered or wonderfully it's done. It's just if it can't meet that, it's not good. So yeah, it sucks, because I'm a painter,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of how I treat it. It's like, if I'm at home painting and doing illustrations and stuff, like that's where I get to do that. With tattooing, I try to treat it different, but yeah, it's been kind of a thing that's had a long hold on me, like trying to push more and more away from that, yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up in 10 years. Yeah.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah. Evolution's great.
Yeah.
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 Right. So that's great. So you were at Avalon for 3 to 5 years, bouncing back and forth with New York, and then is that when you ended up coming back with your then ex-wife?
Yeah,
and
so
opening
that
Remington?
was the plan. We got married. We literally bought and moved into a house the same week that we were getting married, with 200 guests and all this crazy stuff. Our lives were really insane. She's one of those persons that was like, and now we're going to do this. This is our new goal. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm tired. I work like 60 hours a week.
Type A personality.
I'm flying back and forth on a plane. Like, can I just enjoy life for a minute? No offense to her. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we're different people. And so, yeah, it was pretty much like, all right, now we're opening a shop. And I was like, fucking Christ. Okay. All right. So yeah, I did it, and yeah, it was super hard, because again, like working for Fit, I worked with a few other artists, Alessio Ricci, if you ever seen his stuff, wonderful Japanese stuff. Chris Walken worked there again for a little while. Tattoo artist by the name of Kevin Dickinson. If you don't know him, just check him out. It's really great stuff.
I will.
Yeah, Chris Cockrell, who actually works at my shop. Geez, him and I have been working together for forever. But yeah, it was just like I worked. To me, I was like, I made it. Like, this is a perfect shop. The owner is awesome. He does rad tattoos. He's such a nice guy, and like, why am I gonna open something? It was just like, but then I kind of knew that I needed to. I was like, man, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I still work. I still do that. And I was just like, just so busy, booked so far. I was like, man, I'm just giving this to someone else. It's my time, and, she was pushing me to do it, but it was also like, yeah, it's my time. And so, yeah, I did it. And then, here we are, 13 years later. Still open, like it's, yeah.
Nice.
So the original location was across the street from where we are now. It was a really small little building. I rented, because I wanted to make sure the overhead was low. I was like, man, when I opened it, I was like, all right, I got about roughly 8 months of appointments. So either this is going to go well, or I'm going to tattoo the last person on the end of the 8th month and be like, I'm out of business. So that was the plan,
Because that happens.
Totally happens. And then so I did that, and then
never happens.
maybe about, I don't know, about 5-6 months in, me and the ex-wife are like, yeah, we're not working, because I think she believed that, like, all right, Terry's gonna have his shop, he's gonna have his people working with him, he's gonna just start pulling in cash. I think she was under the impression that I was, I had more value than, like, oh, you've been in these magazines and you worked in these, I'm like, yeah, it's not like that. You know what I mean? Like, people don't, it's not like that. And so anyway, it didn't work out with her, and which was fine, it was crazy because it wasn't like the plan, it was like, shit, she was going to do all the branding and the marketing. Like, how am I going to do this now? So I hired people to do that. And then, maybe about we were there for 4 years, and then so then we moved across the street. A building came for sale, and my partner, my girlfriend, Jasmine Worth, who's also a wonderful tattooer, she's like, the place across the street is for sale. I was like, really? Yeah. She's like, we should go look at it. It's a house. It's a little Spanish house, and it's zoned correctly for tattooing. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of like, it's stupid not to, because rent's going to go up. The mortgage stays the same. And it was bigger. It was a bigger location. It had a garage. So, we converted the garage. There's 2 more stations out there. And so, now there's about, altogether there's 10 of us that tattoo there. It's.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's a lot.
It is, but it's, it's, I mean, like, you guys both have shops, right? Like, both of you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've cut it down to 3 people.
It's tough to juggle personalities. It's tough to maintain a crew.
It's hard.
It's hard when people reach a certain point of success, and it's like, it's time for them to go too. It's a lot of overhead, like stupid amount of overhead. Tattoos it's expensive to make tattoos. Yeah. Clients may not really understand that.
Yeah.
And so, it has that kind of thing, but, for now, the way it is, it works.
Awesome. Is it pretty much a custom studio, or do you guys do walk-ins and stuff?
I kind of copied the Avalon model. That same idea where we're custom focused, not really having flash everywhere, but also allowing for people to walk in. Because, I needed to be able to hire people. I needed to give them access to clients, and I didn't know who I was going to get. Someone's going to come and guest spot, or someone's maybe they just moved here. They're going to need an ability to grow clientele. So the doors open. You know what I mean? And as far as me, my books never close. I don't close my books. It's just I'm I think in my head I'm always I'm gonna go out of business. People are just going to wake up one day. They're going to be like, fuck Terry. I don't want his tattoos anymore. That's the end. That never leaves me, which is super unhealthy.
Hey, let's take it back a little bit. You were doing all this work, record label, album covers, all that stuff. Do you come from an actual education art background, or just all self-taught?
I mean, so to be fair, it's I'm self-taught, but my dad can draw, my brother can draw, my sister can draw, my uncle is an amazing oil painter, my grandmother could draw and oil paint and all this stuff. It's in my household, it was genetically impossible not to be an artist. My brother has two kids; they can both draw. It's just, honestly, it wasn't until I got to kindergarten that I did realize that other kids couldn't really do that. I remember, we're doing the first assignments, and I get up to go sharpen my pencil, and I look around the room, I'm like, what is happening? Because it wasn't that way in my house. Everyone could do it. And that was the moment when I realized, I was like, oh, I do something special. And also being kind of awkward, introverted kid. I was like, man, I'm not going to walk up to someone and be like, oh, you want to come over? I'm horrible at sports. No one's going to, I'm always the last one picked. It was so sad, And, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to go hang out and draw over here. And then before I knew it, I have a circle of kids around me. They're like, draw me this. Oh man, you could draw this stuff. And I would draw cartoons that we're into, and, screwed up pictures of teachers. And just people thought it was fun and funny. And I was like, it was just my only way to connect with people, So, I think I might have went off on a tangent there.
Okay. Good. We love tangents.
You said you listened to this podcast. Of course.
Right. Yeah.
It's really just one long tangent between Sean and I.
It's there's 3 people, and each one of us takes turn going on tangents. That's it. That's what it is.
Did you do any album covers that we would know?
No, most of this stuff is pretty like underground hip hop stuff. So it depends, like if you're familiar with any of that kind of stuff. Like, guys that like follow any like turntable stuff, like any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I did work for DJ Faust, Shorty, and Craze. 2 of them are DMC champions, and
I know Faust is.
If you know who Dave Paul is, he ran a record label called Bomb Records that put out a lot of that stuff. So I did a handful of things for him.
They did a series of DJ compilations.
Yeah, Contents Under Pressure and Return of the DJ. Yeah.
Return of the DJ was great.
Yeah. We played the shit out of that back in the day.
Yeah.
It was cool. To get to meet him and kind of fulfill that fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, because I've always loved that stuff. Like, I can scratch and do that kind of thing. I mean, like, I don't perform anywhere because I'm not at that level. It's just like some silly thing that I like to do.
Yeah, because it's Babu is from that.
Babu's up in LA.
Wasn't DJ
But Shortcut, Qbert, Mixmaster Mike, those are all like the big San Francisco names. Qbert is. Peanut Butter Wolf, Stones Throw Records was in San Mateo at the time. And so I grew up in this little town, San Carlos, that's in San Mateo County. Yeah, so, yeah.
I saw Peanut Butter Wolf in Vancouver once, and it was one of the best fucking shows ever. He just spent 45 the whole night. It was sick.
Yeah.
It was so sick.
That's like real DJ,
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Fucking, me and Dave, we both come from like east side of Toronto. We grew up on hip hop and all that culture and stuff. I kind of guessed
because your intro music always has that stuff. So I was like, I wonder if these guys are into this.
The clips and everything. Yeah, we're into everything. So, totally. It's funny. I've just been watching like old YouTube videos of like Scratch Pickles or like old turntablists, the championships, like the Techniques championships from years ago. I was just rewatching that one. I forget what year it was, where the blind guy was DJing and he just had the girl beside him handing him records. And he's like doing it all by like just sick. I love all that shit, man. Like I love all that and breakdancing. I was just watching like last year's like Les Twins like hip hop battles and stuff. I love all that shit, man.
Yeah, it's funny because like
awesome.
So I've been together with Jasmine for, I guess we're reaching 12 years. She's like, like when we met, she's like, she just listens to black metal, industrial, like goth stuff. She only wears black. Like she only wears black, and it's like so different than, and I would like kind of like, maybe she'd bring me somewhere like some industrial place. And I was like, this is basically hip hop, right? And she'd be like, no. Or we saw a band a few years back, Coco Rosie, and one of them raps, and one of them, they had a guy that was like a beatboxer. And I'm like, this is basically hip hop, right? But she is not into any of that stuff. So, we find other music that we enjoy together, listen to jazz.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I save her from my, stuff. Yeah. I can listen to her stuff. I think it's cool, but, like if I play anything, I can just see her like skin crawling.
Yeah, some people have an aversion to hip hop.
Yeah,
some people just really do. Like
same with country or death metal. Some people it's like anything but hip hop or anything but country or anything but death metal. How do you guys solve the problem at your shop of what music gets played?
It's on Spotify. So all right, this is funny. Like, so I don't want or let the guys play like death metal or black metal. No, like gangster rap. Nothing that's just super lewd and crude and loud. And, just like I want the place to be open to like anyone that walks in. Like that, a lot of that stuff, it's not for everybody. Like, and even things that I enjoy, I'm like, yeah, this isn't right. Like, so I try to, I hate to be that, but I'm like, yeah, could you guys not play that stuff? And of course, they always do. I think half the time just to watch me like be irritated.
I'm the same. It's like read the room. Yeah, read the room.
That's a big thing for me. Like I think a lot of tattooers forget that. Like when someone comes in to get tattooed by you or by me, for sure. This is what I try to think of. It's like this is their day. It's not my day. This is the moment that's going to be, I'm going to record this moment on their body, and they're going to forever remember like certain smells, the experience, some of the music, like the conversation that we had. And, I want it to be like really focused on them. Like I hear the way a lot of tattooers will communicate with clients, and, everyone has the right to be however they want to be. But, it's like, you got tattooers that are just conversing with each other. It's almost like the client is just, this is just a meat sack that I draw on, and then money shoots out at the end. Like that is not, or tattooers that put on headphones, like when they're about to tattoo someone. I'm like, man, how dick is that? And again, that's me.
Or even worse, it's not even that. It's not even headphones for music. It's just like those like earmuffs that have just no sound to get through at all. It's just like I don't want to hear anything.
Yeah, I want to know the person. I want it to be comfortable, and honestly, like the better I know them, I kind of just assume that anyone I tattoo, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to be their tattooer. They just don't know it yet, and I'd say like 90% of the time I'm right. Over half the people I tattoo here in San Diego, I've been tattooing these people for 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to tattoo the brother, the sister, their kids in some places, like, I'm their guy, forever. You know what I mean? It's cool.
Yeah.
I think a lot of tattooers miss the fact that it really is about your connection with other people, your clients. I mean, that's really if you want to be rewarded by tattooing, that's where you're going
I really feel that way.
Nurture that relationship with your clients. It'll reward you with more clients.
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's like I love that. Like, there's so many people I've tattooed where like you see them transform as a person. Like that person that feels awkward when they take their shirt off. They just don't feel confident in their body. And then as you tattoo them more and more, they become comfortable in their own skin. It's like this like psychic armor that's now on them, and they can just maneuver through the world in a way that like they just weren't able to before. And like I love being part of that process. To have that connection with someone, to see them change. Like I put artwork on this person, and I think it's changing them, not just physically, like emotionally, mentally. Like it's really something I super enjoy about tattooing. I make a lot of paintings. I show in a gallery in San Francisco, like always. I got a painting just sent there just the other day, and like if someone buys it, like it's great. I super appreciate anyone that supports my art, but like I don't know who bought it. It's just like it just goes on. Money came in the mail.
Well, that's. We were talking to Heather McLean.
Oh yeah, she's one of my faves.
Canadian artist, and she was saying something similar. She took a lot of time off to paint. She ended up coming back to tattooing, and one of the things was that it was just a cold affair. She'd do the painting, and then it would be gone, but no connection to any other humans. Whereas with tattooing, like you're saying, it's this whole thing. It's amazing it doesn't get talked about more.
I think it's just really, for me, really important. It's like, it's not just like, yeah, sure, drawing is a skill set. I can look at things and like figure out, I can do, size things in my mind. Cool. I mean, that's really all it is, right? Like when you really think about it, like I can measure with my eyeballs and put it on a piece of paper. That is just a silly human trick. Like that's not the art. The art is something more. It's the message or like my connection. When I listened to the interview that you guys had with Rob Costa, it's like, and he's one of my heroes. Like I fucking love his stuff. Just his style, how unique it is, how original it is, and just like listening to hear him talk about, his creative process. I was like, this guy is amazing. Yeah. But I mean, everything he said, I was like, yeah, I totally get that.
Thinking in ways, and thinking in ways I just never thought of, like at all, ever. Like how to find inspiration in things that like. I'm just like, what? And now I'm starting to see that stuff, It's like, that's what I love about these conversations, right? I always go back to like with Tim and stuff. Like, I got to work with Steve Moore for a long time, but I took that time for granted. It's just like, Steve's my friend and I work with him. He's great. I don't tattoo or draw anything like him. So I overlooked a lot of things that I could have taken from that time together, right? I'll always cherish that time, but more as a friend rather than like the artistic inspiration. So now I'm starting to, open myself up more because it's like I've painted so many things that nobody has ever seen because I literally finish it or almost finish it and then just fucking destroy it. Like I still have some hard canvas, like illustration boards that I just found that I still have from leaving Sacred Heart. I left Sacred Heart in 2004. I actually lived on the streets for a bit and had stuff in storage. And then I've like moved around a bunch and I still have drawings of paintings that I wanted to do. I have like layouts and concepts and all this stuff that I just found like in folders and shit. And I'm just like, how do I still have all this fucking stuff? And it's just like, I need to, approach it and finish it and stuff. But I've always been so insecure in that way. So these conversations have been, so beneficial for me in that aspect that I get to hear how these other people that I can't even like put my, I'm not even a footnote, in this person's like career and their style and their artistic abilities. And then it's like, oh, they feel the same way. Right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, okay. Right. The difference is that they pushed through it and they kept, pushing and pushing and pushing, where I was just like, nah, I'm not even drinking. I'm just gonna do regular tattoos. I'm good. So how, like when you started early on, like when did you start developing what is kind of your style now? And what kind of brought you in that direction?
I think Denny introducing me to Philip Liu's work. I really just loved the composition. That was something really big for me. My dad, he did a lot of photography, and every night, not every night, but many nights, he would, put up the projector and I'd hang out with him and he'd do the slides. And that man is so critical of poor composition. And so like when I started tattooing and then meeting Denny, I was like, yeah, that's really important because if it doesn't fit right, it's wrong, and so that was a big piece. Alphonse Mucha, looking at his stuff, I was like, all these pieces, all this artwork, his illustration stuff, not like the Slav epic, which is amazing. If you ever get a chance to see it, but,
amazing. Oh my God.
It's so amazing. Like that was the first time in my life, like when I went back to the hotel, like I couldn't sleep because it was just like, what am I doing with my life? Seeing Muka's stuff, I was like, he wasn't a tattooer, but I sure wish he was because goddamn, like it was such great sense of design to break things down, and that like, which, I feel like I can still benefit a lot more from that, but the less is more. Keeping things like the design is more important than all the bells and whistles. I heard your guys, you retaped your John Clue, and hearing him talk about that, he went to Daredevil actually, and that's kind of where he kind of learned that. And for me, it was honestly, Denny had a lot to do with it, working with Nathan Willis and Chris, because they were more illustrative and did biomechanical stuff. And, I was really into that too. I am still into that. And then, also, but going to Seven Seas, all those guys did really great traditional tattooing. And I such a dick when I started, like, that shop that I learned at, that was like the heart of that shop. And like, I just didn't get it at that point. I was like, it's just like drawn weird. They just didn't know, that's like, really, it's like such a jerk mentality. And then I go to Seven Seas and I would listen to these guys like super critique, like, stuff that just was kind of like too new school or too this or that. And I was like, and I started to see what they were talking about, and, I honestly, like, traditional tattooers, like the first, 10 years of my tattooing, I'm so intimidated by like anyone who does that well. I was like, God, you're like a real tattooer. I don't know what I'm doing. Seriously, like, and so, yeah, somewhere around, then kind of like trying to change what I was doing. I didn't, it wasn't like, I knew that wasn't home for me. I just have an illustrative nature, like that's just where I'm at. But I kind of wanted to do something like something in between, something that's a piece of all those things,
That's what your work, like, when I look at your work, it's like, oh, you were a tattooer that like switched over to illustration, like illustrative tattooing. Like, that's when I see your work, like I see like that, I see tattooing first, where other people, it's just like all the bells and whistles and that illustrative, like super extra, you know what I mean? And I see your stuff and I'm like, oh, these are just really great, huge fucking tattoos, like with great composition and stuff. So that's why I was curious as to like how you developed that style. And it's because you were surrounded by these traditional tattooers, I guess. And you just took all that into play and got beat up mentally by Denny every day. So
I mean, yep. I appreciate that, by the way. That was definitely it. Kind of, tattooing has. I really love Japanese stuff. Jasmine and I went to Japan. Like, we were so obsessed. Like, came back and like for 2 months straight, we're only eating Japanese food. I'm trying to learn how to make sushi at home and like failing. God, just amazing place.
Sounds like everybody.
I swear, everyone's like, "Is this your first time?" Or or like,
I think it's a cult. I'm convinced that Japan is a cult. And they're just achieved nation status.
But just as a culture, like, it's just like the dedication to like doing things well. Like the best French pastries I've ever had, Japan. It's like, they do shit really good. That'd be a hard place to try to be an artist. I don't know. I feel like the level is so like the level of excellence is something really like culturally like, that'd be intimidating. I don't know.
In so many of the things they do, like, I just, same. Because I'm always on YouTube. I just watched like handmade Japanese paper being made, and it's like the same guy's been doing it for 60 years. And then I was watching like it's actually like a government position where these old guys, they just make longbows, traditional longbows, all by hand, and they do that every day. And I'm just like, fuck, when these guys die, like, there's gonna be nobody else doing it, because no young people want to learn how to do this hard trade and stuff. It's just like the way they do one thing is the way they do everything, and it's all in. Yeah.
Work ethic. I mean, you look at the culture of the salaryman in corporations and stuff like that. And I think that's not just in corporate lifestyle. I think that's in everything. Because, I mean, you go into areas of Japan, like where there's vintage stores, and they're all in on vintage. It's just like, holy fuck. Like, you walk into these miniature worlds of like, what the fuck? Is this store dedicated to 1957? Like, they're so specific. And, everything. But it's so bizarre.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it really. So Jasmine and I, more so Jasmine, you might see some of this mess back here. We do ceramics. She does a lot of like stuff on the wheel and all that kind of stuff, and it's, like that kind of stuff, like they're, you ever like watch any videos of these guys doing that? It's like, it's crazy. We're just like, I'm smashing some mud around. This sucks. And like, you watch these guys.
Well, it's even that woman, is her name Anne or Anna Bolin? Oh. She makes the hojus.
Yeah. No.
Have you seen her?
Yeah, those are rad.
Okay. I'll send her to you though. Sam, she just makes these ceramic hojus, and they're so amazing and so pretty. None are the same. They're different sizes. You can open them up, put incense in them and stuff. Like they're just, just cool. I'll send it to you anyway. They're very cool. If you guys are into that stuff, you'll definitely like her work. But yeah, Sam. So do you fully render almost all of your tattoos before you start your projects?
Most of the time I just like make it up. Yeah. But
okay.
You freehand it all?
Yes and no. It just depends on the client, because like I stencil the majority of my work, but like, all right. So to give you an idea, like my consultations with a client, I draw the tattoo in front of them. So it's kind of like freehand, sort of, not really, Yeah. So they meet me on the consultation day, and I'm like, you're gonna sit here and suffer for 2 or 3 hours through this drawing so that you don't make me draw the shit again. It's really kind of how I do it. And then, but also like I get a better chance to communicate with them, and, so I do it like that. And then, of course, when you stencil stuff on, things don't always fit really perfect, or sometimes the person just has like a little bit of a different idea. And like, if it's good, I'm like, yeah, let's do it that way. And then you just wipe this part off, or don't even stick that part on, and draw it on, so a little bit of both, honestly, like if I was better at time management and had an easier schedule, I probably would freehand a lot more. I see 2 people a day, I have roughly like the next 18 months out. I work like a lot, like it's unhealthy to be honest, like
hopefully that doesn't all dry up. Hopefully that doesn't all dry up on you.
I feel like this the most of my career, like I just everyone.
Yeah, that's what you being sarcastic.
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic.
But I don't know. Jasmine is like, if you get a chance, you can check her out. Jasmine Worth does amazing painter, amazing tattooer. I taught her to tattoo about 8.5 years ago, which is like amazing that we're still together, because like that could be a trying thing in a relationship, right? But like her life work balance is so much better than mine. Like she's that was a big concern of hers. Like when she started tattooing, was like, I don't want to deal with people like that, or it's like she knows how to say no to people, like in a way that like I'm not as good at, or like she budgets her time. She's like, this is my time for tattooing, because she does a lot of gallery work, so that there's always time to do gallery work, and there's always time to do ceramics. And I've never met anyone that reads as much as her. She's honestly like one of the smartest people I know. And then she usually tells me, she's like, you just don't know very smart people. But no, she's just amazing, and like she's so great at like time management and kind of being able to hit all those marks of like I have a life, I have friends and relationships, I have downtime. I'm like 4 days a week at the shop. I don't exist. Like I get up in the morning, I walk the dog, I'm at the shop by 9:30. I leave at 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning. Like that's 4 days. I'm gone. It's not good. but she knows. She's like, hey, but when we're off, we have 3 days together, and so we get to spend our time. But yeah, and I'll see her. She'll come to work, and she'll poke her head in my room. Hey, Terror Bear. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Amazing. So besides like jumping back and forth between New York and San Diego doing that stint, did you do many other guest spots, or did you do convention circuits at all?
The couple weeks over Kapala, I guest spotted in Hawaii before. I used to guest spot a lot up in the Bay Area. There's a shop called Final Sin in East Bay. Yep.
Tattooing's the final sin.
The name says it all, and I used to go there every month for
awesome.
like, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half or something like that. So yeah, I've done a fair amount of guest spotting, conventions, done the Queen Mary a few times, and tried to do the Hawaii convention, and then I didn't do the paperwork right. So like me and Jasmine and this guy Nathaniel Gann, also a great tattooer. They wouldn't let us work. The booth is set up, and like we didn't have a syphilis test.
Brutal.
Yeah, you have to be tested for syphilis to tattoo in Hawaii. And so this is amazing. So Chris Cockrell at my shop, he's like the best like troll. He like really knows how to just screw with people. So like weeks leading up to it, he's like, hey, you need that syphilis test, right? And like he just kept saying it, and I'm like, it's just another one of these idiotic things that he's like doing to like drive me nuts. He was being serious. I needed a syphilis test. Yeah, so they like were like,
why are you so scared to get the syphilis test?
Jasmine has something to tell you. But yeah, right, yeah.
Oh, she know already.
Yeah. Well, but luckily the one of the owners of the convention, he had a shop, and he's like, you guys have appointments? Just go there, get tattoo on my shop. You don't have to leave a drop. Just sorry, we screwed that up.
Nice.
And it's I feel especially
It's so weird. You need a syphilis test to tattoo at a convention. It's like they do know you're not sleeping with anybody, right?
When is it? At what moment is that going to happen? I'm just like tattooing. I'm like, I smeared my dick on your tattoo. like what?
Yeah.
Never is that going to happen.
It's how all the Greeks spread their Vaseline.
I didn't have the popsicle sticks. So.
Oh, yeah.
You got another tool.
I wanted to ask you about, it was a more recent post of yours. I'm just going to bring it up here because I want to. This fucking Poseidon.
Oh, yeah.
How many hours was that Poseidon chalk pastel on toned paper? How many hours was that thing?
How are you so patient to use chalk pastels?
I don't know, maybe like 9 hours, something like that. Yeah, so like
what?
It's 11 by 14. The work is the face.
Fuck.
Yeah,
I'd be so scared to fucking touch it.
So yeah, basically with the chalk pastel stuff, you use toned paper, so that cuts down the need to push as hard because you don't have white coming through. So I'll do that. Just kind of do the initial lay-in with the chalk pastel, and then spray fix it with workable spray fix, and then the final coat is adjusting contrast and highlights with Prismacolor pencil, and then that's it. It's done. It's really fast and efficient because pastel you could fill a large area very quickly, way less time than you could ever do with regular Prismacolor, get something done. It is a little bit more fragile, that's for sure. Like when you're working, it's a little like, you do work and then like you spray fix it and like it blew like 20% or 30% of what you just did like away, but you sort of just work that into what you're doing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it seems like almost every time I jump on to check something, you're like doing a live.
Been doing that lately. I suck at social media. Like,
because like you don't already do enough.
I compulsively draw. It's like, I swear. Yeah, if Jasmine wasn't in my life, I would literally like be at the shop at like 9:30, get out at 1, probably work on drawing till 3 in, deprive myself of sleep, and then do it again. It's just days off. It's like, she's patient with me, and like we go out, we do, we go hiking, we take little like road trips, so that we travel. If it wasn't for her, like I would just like never leave the house. I don't know, like I just I love drawing a lot. Like, I don't know, it just feels good. It just like it just relaxes my mind. I don't know. It's just
Yeah. You and James Tex, he's so
he's very
addicted to drawing too.
Guy.
Like he's always drawing. Yeah, always drawing. It's just like Jesus. Like I think he likes drawing. He likes drawing more than tattooing. But yeah,
I don't know if I want to say that. I mean, I don't know. It offers different things. It offers different things.
Yeah, for sure.
Depends on the day.
Well, the one offers you good money, and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, but what I love about for sure that's why I tattoo. But
yeah,
because I told you about my earlier career, how that worked out. So I was like, a lot of the drawing. It's just like it's a great place to work out ideas. Like I don't have to like respond to a client. I'm not like restricted by what they're thinking. I get to explore. I don't even know, like I don't really have like a style per se. It's like it's illustrated stuff, sort of. Like I draw it the Terry way. I don't really, I don't know if that's good or bad or just maybe I just like don't understand things well enough and I just do it how I do it. I don't. I don't know. But I like being able to just like, give myself little like projects. Like, so when I started tattooing, Denny, he made me draw bodysuits, like a lot of bodysuits. I would do these like little miniature bodysuit like paintings and illustrations, and eventually some bigger ones, And I was like not even tattooing yet, and or like barely tattooing, like a year and a half, and I'm painting bodysuits, and I think that's part of it. It's especially with an iPad, I can just sit on the couch, watch a movie with Jasmine, dogs with me, fireplace is going, and just sit there and I'm just like, I'm going to make a bodysuit because why not?
Watch a movie, one eye like this, one eye down like this.
Honestly, I hate TV.
No, I'm enjoying this. This movie's great.
It's like, sure, we can do that. I want to, it's, but plus it's like, it gives me a chance to, put things online or show things to customers. Like I still have that mentality. It's like, I hate listening to tattooers go, man, I really want to do this style. And I'm like, but I don't have a clientele for it. It's not in my book. And I'm like, cool, you should draw that. And they have nothing. And they go, oh, you should paint that. Nothing. It doesn't sound like you really want to do that then. I hate to be a jerk, but it's like if you really want to do that, do it. You know what I mean? And then people will see it. When I started tattooing, I mean, I kind of started doing pretty big work, like very shortly after I started. In part because Denny, he just liked Japanese stuff. He's like, this Marine's getting this. I don't want to draw a fucking angel. You're doing it. And I'm like, I shouldn't be doing a sleeve. Yeah, you're going to do a sleeve. Like, that was really how it was. It was just like, I was like Denny's like garbage disposal. He's like, this is not Japanese. Give it to the kid, And so, but, having that experience, it was like, they would come into my booth and you'd have, drawings and paintings all over the walls. And then you get to have that conversation with people that you can open their minds to things that they wouldn't think about, because people are just, if they're not artists, they're not visual people, they're just sort of limited by like what they see online, or whatever maybe kind of seems like a trend at the moment, and it's, I may not always be the most successful at, but I'm trying to steer them in a direction, so that's my chance to do that. And, and also like, it's my chance to learn that, because like, I also don't want to be that guy like, man, I really want to do this stuff. Do you have any examples? No. Just stop talking.
I never complain about not doing stuff I want to do. I get to do mostly what I want to do and stuff, but I've also never been a guy that hung my own drawings around myself. So at Sacred Heart, Steve Moore always had his stuff. Everybody always had their stuff up or taped up, the projects they were working on. I never did that. I've been in tattooing for 33 years, and this past week is the first time in my whole career where I hung my own paintings in my station.
Nice.
And it's fucking weird. I hung like 6 of my own original paintings, and everybody's like, "Oh, how does it feel?" I'm like, fucking weird. Like, for me, it's just weird. I'm like, I like being able to talk about, like, I have lots of really great art from friends and originals, and I love to be able to talk about that stuff. But yeah, it's like, people are like, "Oh, is that yours?" No, that's Rob Noseworthy.
Yeah. So I understand. Like, so throughout my shop, there's hardly an inch of it that doesn't have a painting or drawing or something, and then never mind all the the paper drawings dangling off the wall, from everyone's work. But yeah, I really encourage the artists to put their own stuff in their station. You're like, this is.
Oh, I do the same. Every artist that works for me, their shit is all around them.
No, I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't know, feel proud, feel proud. Like, this is, it's not like, I think some people might see it as being like conceited or like you're like too self-focused, or, and I'm like, no, like, this is, I'm sorry?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so. I think that's crazy if people think that. It's like, my thing is that I'll do a painting and then I'll be hanging and I might not like it, and I'd be afraid that somebody would want me to tattoo it, because then now I have to try and convince them that's not good so I can redraw it, So, but now that's, again, like, going back to this podcast that I'm so fortunate to do, is that now I'm putting myself out there more and allowing that stuff to hang for the first time ever. It's just
I mean, a lot of the stuff I've tattooed on people is just because I have a painting or a drawing like that in my room, and most of the paintings in my room are oil paintings, which do not translate to tattooing. And so clients were like, "Oh yeah, I like this stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but I would make it tattooable." And so it's like, this is just like an idea. Don't worry about this, Yeah, I get to do it again, and I get to, plus it's like, it's really to get them into it. It's not really, my room. So I got my little room with the door, like the people go into my little art cocoon, and it's a lot of paintings I have, but I kind of feel like I want people to be sort of immersed in this little world of mine,
makes sense. Like you say, it's so much easier to have the conversation about what their tattoo's going to look like and ideas they can get from what you do, and I'm sure they feel a lot more comfortable looking at the stuff around you. They don't have to guess as much.
And I tell clients, I was like, I show stuff in galleries, and then if it doesn't sell, they send it back. So all the stuff on these walls, these are my failures. So if you like it, I'm going to make it a little better because it doesn't sound like it worked too well the first time. So,
Yeah, that one there, I call that one. That one hurt a little bit.
Never get that 30 hours back.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, awesome. Gonna ask it, Dave?
Yeah, I think we could probably guess at least 3 of them already, but who are your top 5?
So,
and only 5.
So if I'm gonna go strictly like top,
no secondary lists, no time zone lists, no style lists.
Let me get my mouse. I'm gonna put it on the stop button.
Yeah. I hear this is I listened to the Jeff Croce interview. Man, that was like he's like top 50. Philip Liu for sure. Aaron Kane. Rob Koss. Lars Uwe. And Seymour. Yeah. That would be like my top 5 favorite tattooers. And they're, some are pretty different and then some of them are kind of similar. Like Aaron and Rob are kind of.
They're all original though.
I'm sorry?
They're all original. They're all original though. Like they all distinctive. They're all, when you look at their work, you can tell it's their work, right? Yeah.
It's such the impact all those people. They got a secondary list. Ed Hardy should be on there because you know what I mean. There's some people on there I feel bad about not bringing up.
Well, I think everyone could say the Hall of Famers, right? Like there's the Ed Hardys and Sailor Jerry's and other names like that everyone, of course, loves and puts on a pedestal. But we're looking for the ones that personally have
that list. I think is honestly sort of what I want to model my work after. Seeing the right choices that they've made and trying to see what I can do to make those right choices too. In more so in recent years, I really try not to longer than recent years, like the last 10, 15 years, I really don't look at other artists, tattooers' work as reference. I look at it to enjoy it. But when I go draw, I use life. I want to use photos, and kind of make my abstraction from
real reference.
I don't want my work to look like someone else's work. I will say maybe with the biomech stuff, it's a little harder because it's kind of maybe I'm just not original enough. I guess I don't know, but I think at least with everything else I'm doing, it's I don't know if you'd really say it looks quite like these other people. At least that's what I hope. I don't know.
It sounds like you've always had a clear vision of what you need to do and how you want to get there. Is that true, or is that just something that's come to you later?
Yeah, no, I think so. Honestly, it was the conversations I had with Denny. It was a big, he, as far as just outside of their art, their visual art, that he had a really massive impact on how I think about tattooing. I don't, it's funny because I'll work with other artists and they didn't know that or something man, you've been tattooing 10 years and you don't understand how to put this together, and they're like, no one really showed me, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, in a way it kind of had to be told, it's like, these things face forward. This is the inside. Really thinking about you're moving, the back, the center. You're moving out towards the front of a person. Everything moves that way. Like imagine if this person was to fall from the sky, and all the wind would just travel across their body. Like things should move that way. It just looks natural, so, trying to kind of really think about that. Those are the pieces I love the most that are like really kind of simple, that just have like just such a clear, like really readable composition. Like, I can just see like how simple the movement is across the person. Like, it's in the beginning, it was much harder to get that because the pieces are only so big and you're like trying to make it happen. And, as the pieces get bigger, you get a little bit more opportunity. And then as people get more comfortable with you, you get a little bit more, But, there's definitely like, I think from the get go, I had an idea of where I wanted to go. But, that's the tough thing about tattooing. It's hard, this is someone else's body. So it's, you don't get to do whatever you want, even people that I think do whatever they want. And then you hear them in an interview and they're like, yeah, you don't really get to do whatever you want. And you're like, really? You're Philip Blue, man. It seems like, you know what I mean? Like,
Do we really want to do whatever we want, though? I mean, I'd just be paralyzed. I'd be like, fuck, I don't even know. What do you choose?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right, yeah.
So where's
Denny works
Denny now?
at a shop in Pacific Beach, and it is called.
Can't believe you didn't name him as one of your favorites.
We have an interesting relationship. So.
I'm hoping the first comment on this post when we put it up is going to be him going, "You still suck."
Probably. I expect it. He works at an even keel. Yeah.
Cool.
I believe it's just Denny Bernard.
I want to check it out.
Yeah, it's sort of like kind of reminds me of like Philip Blue meets Tintin, the little bit of like a kind of like a James Tex sort of style, not rendered the same, but like, yeah.
How do you spell Denny, with an IE or a Y? He's been as much a part of this interview as you have.
Yeah, I want to say his avatar is like a little white, like Anya mask or something like that.
I'll try to find it on accounts.
I'll message him and ask him to do an intro.
God, you guys gonna ruin me. I have a very terrible relationship with him. Yeah, because I hate to say it, but it's like I don't respond to him as often as he reaches out. It's like it can be a struggle sometimes. I was like, man, you're gonna like punch me in the gut. I know it. Like, just like what he says. It's like, man, I've been doing this long enough, man. Like I'm not.
Your big brother's you.
I get it from Sean every week.
Yeah.
Week.
Yeah, it just sounds like your big brother's you.
And honestly, like we have a little bit of like a different direction, like, I'm this way with other people, it's like, it's not my place to tell someone like what kind of art they should make or what they should like or what is right for them. That's for them to decide. This is how we end up with people that are unique and stand out and are the influencers that, kind of change tattooing, like if everyone had to adhere to, some grumpy person that was like, no, it's my way. It was the way it was before me, and everyone does it just like Sailor Jerry or whatever. And you're like, that fucking sucks. Like that is just like, You know, I mean, I understand it in the first couple of years of tattooing because you want someone to make solid design choices. But at some point, it's like, leave that person alone. Let them do their thing. This is how they're going to grow.
All right. Sounds like we got to let Terry go because he's got some therapy to get to.
Some PSD. PTSD.
This was awesome, man. Thanks so much, Terry, for joining us, and thanks so much, for supporting and stuff. And you've commented on a lot of posts, and the private DMs and stuff were awesome. I love hearing from people and getting feedback and stuff. It's no different than anything you do in life. It's like, I hope people are going to like this.
Totally.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate what you guys are doing. You've had so many heroes of mine on your show. I mean, Steve and Rob were on your show. You know what I mean? Like they're part of my top 5. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's rad. It's rad that, you know what I mean? Because like, what do you get from this really? You know what I mean? Personal growth, I guess.
I get to make fun of Dave once a week.
Totally.
Yeah, you guys are offering something for all of us to enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right
cool,
on.
man. This is awesome. Thank you so much. It's dinner time for me, so that's what I'm going to be doing.
It was great getting to know Curly and this amazing guy that tattooed with one arm. The customer had to stretch his own skin.
So I did get blood poisoning from him twice. Yeah, twice. Ed Hardy brought this whole Japanese influence into American tattooing. Once Dave Shore come onto the scene, it was like tattooing completely changed.
If anybody could say anything about greaseball Japanese, it's fucking Dave Shore.
Salty, piratey, bikery, just hard not to do.
Man, he'd pull in on his chopper with the tattoos and the girls, and I mean, he was just like so cool, man.
He captured vulgarity and pleasure and insanity and recklessness.
Tattooer in the 80s or 70s. Just not the same, you had to be a tough guy.
I was scared shitless. Even though I was kind of a biker guy, these were bigger biker guys,
I'm not totally sure you could paint the picture accurately to somebody now getting into tattooing about what it was like then. And the only reason I would say or I feel that way, though, is because they might not believe you.
We had the limo waiting for him with all the lines of blow lined at the airport. This is the way we do it in Canada.
In like 80s, 90s, Paul Jeffries was like the king of tattooing. It wasn't just in Canada.
Like, am I supposed to stop tattooing? Because if this is what I'm supposed to aspire to, it's not gonna happen.
Each one of these old masters influenced groups of tattooers who in turn influenced other groups of tattooers.
The True North Strong Tattoo Book. This is a massive tattoo encyclopedia of Canadian tattooers. 350 pages. It's an 11 by 17 coffee table format. Sean and Dan worked tirelessly to get this thing out, and sadly it never made it to print, so it's available for free download at theholdfastsocialclub.com and championtattoo.ca.